vice chair for the legalization task force, as well as Sarah here, who works for public hearing. And what the task force is what we're supposed to do is advise the board of supervisors on issues regarding like land use, public safety, everything relating to cannabis. Like our task force is supposed to develop and then present to the board of supervisors so they can then implement it into city rules and regulations. So my role on the task force is honestly to really bring that bell of reparations and to really talk about how we need to really start bringing in that lens of equity and bringing in these different city departments to talk about how we're going to get the formerly incarcerated into that field, right? How we can actually start to bring up the conversations on hemp use and divesting from oil, having the city divest from oil and gas and things like that, bringing those conversations up, and also talking about health education in the sense that that's one of the things that the task force is mandated to, but how are they going to do it? Seeing as how most of the people that they want to target for this health education are going to be young people of color. So the ways in which, also because the AOMA designates a lot of like power into the local hands in terms of like where money's going to go and like licensing and things like that, I feel like it's really critical. My position right there is really critical in terms of how much money is going to be going into the police force and for what. Yes, because we know that policing is directly tied to gentrification, violence, and a bunch of public health issues, and we already have SB 297 talking about 15% excise tax on cannabis and 30% going to the police, and then you have AOMA on top of that talking about 20% of revenue going to the police. That's terrible. It's terrible, and you already see that they already just passed a legislation increasing how much money they're giving to that whole system anyways. So where the task force is right now with the AUMA, like we broke it down into certain issues like land use, public safety, social environment. So we just had like our last meeting was basically a presentation from the Board of Equalization on taxing and where it's going to go and how we can utilize it. This next one is going to be on public safety and social environment. A lot of the people on the task force, they're like from local city departments like Department of Public Health, building inspection. They know nothing really about cannabis necessarily, but they did know that they wanted to be on this task force. So it's really up to like basically the chair and the vice chair to really bring in people for that educational piece. We have not even gotten at all dug into the nitty-gritty in terms of how racist like really the AUMA law is and how it's going to really cause recriminalization. And then something else that I did want to bring up is the way in which that you can interface with the task force is by coming to our meetings. Like they are open to the public and they do have time for public comment. Everyone knows how to get in contact with me. Like I'm on Facebook, like you have my card, my email address, I'll give it to you. Go through Supernova, you can contact me as well through there.
When are the task force meetings?
Oh, the task force meetings are, I believe, are the second Wednesday of every month. So the next one is April 13th.
At what time?
I think it's from 1 to 4 at 25 by next room 610. If that's where we're gonna have our meeting again.
Contract that with Oakland, which does them at night, so that people who have daytime employment can attend the evening sessions. And are they broadcast via web? Can people attend remotely or dial in? If not, that's something you all should work on.
Yeah, that's something that we have worked on, right? For people to virtually check in, but we do have a website for the task force, so all our meeting minutes are put on there. So you can always just see like what happened last time, what we talked about. And I know that we're kind of running out of time, but something that I really did want to talk about too in terms of the cannabis legalization is One Plan Bay Area. And I don't know if anybody in here is familiar with One Plan Bay Area, but long story short, it's the plan that was cooked up by Association of Bay Area Governments. And it's kind of like this plan was given to them by the UN. It's their Agenda 21 plan. But long story short, they're like, okay, well, we're going to we want to inventory all the land in the Bay Area for building housing and transportation for the next 25 years. So, yeah, but the thing is, right, so okay, what does that have to do with cannabis? Pricing for land. If we already know these people have already kind of like set the inventory, they already have a whole plan, a regional plan, but they want to inventory all this land to see where they're going to go build housing. That's going to really shift the market for those of us who want to cultivate, where we can have our spaces for manufacturing, where we can have our commercial spaces for our dispensaries. So that's something really to look at because there are no laws right now around commercial use, and it's really a crisis right now because a lot of nonprofits actually they're losing their spaces to all these people who are coming in and tripling and doubling the rent, especially a lot of the different mental health clinics downtown Oakland because they're the perfect space. perfect office space, right? I mean, they've been locked in with cheap rent too. So in terms of One Pine Bay area, I really encourage you to go look at this plan because they cooked it up about 4 or 5 years ago, and they're barely going to the community talking about their plan right now and what they want to do. So I just wanted to bring that piece up as well.
Wonderful. So we're going to open it up for question and answer. Amber will monitor the line of people. If you will stand here and line up, since this microphone isn't wireless, she will control the microphone so that people do not dominate with a single question. Try to be as concise as possible and be mindful of other people when you do it. And while we are all lining up for our questions, because I've seen hands come up like 3 times during this presentation, I want to take a minute to talk a little bit again about the petitions that we have on the 2 computers to everybody's left. We are going to feature a prisoner of the drug war at every Supernova event going forward. And for that particular individual, we will identify an area that they have an event. And so today's featured individual is named Weldon Angelos, and as I mentioned to people who were here earlier, he's currently incarcerated for a nonviolent marijuana-related offense. He has a family. He has a 55-year sentence. He is eligible for parole when he turns 78, and it's really egregious and really depressing. And I'm sure all of you read the news actively, and you might have seen a lot of articles over the last 2 weeks about how the cannabis industry is very white and how people of color are being cut out of opportunity. And we've decided that we're tired of seeing negative press. We're tired of always seeing how things are disproportionately impacting people who look like us. And so we're just going to take action, and we're going to come up with concrete items that people can do to help. So if you feel so driven, Weldon has a petition that you can sign, or you can go to change.org after the event. We will tweet this and put this on our Facebook page so that you don't have to remember it. You can also learn a lot about him at the marijuanaliferproject.org. In addition, should you feel driven to do so, we are collecting donations for his commissary, just to give him something to say, we're thinking of you. And also, if you go to marijuanaliferproject.org, you can find out a little bit more about how to write letters of support to appeal to the sentencing attorney to commute his sentence. And so, while we don't have the capacity to send letters today on behalf of all of you, we do hope that you will visit the website after today's event and participate. The final thing I'll say before I let you all ask questions is we have an organic set of sheets over there where we just want you to tell us what you think the cannabis industry should look like. And we're just collecting it just to have some sort of informal feedback, but we will also have a formal survey that you will get by email that hopefully you will fill out, because survey and data results are the reason why funders give organizations funding. And you're probably wondering how you're in this wonderful space with the refreshments and these great panelists and you didn't pay anything. And it's because we have really generous sponsors. We have Meadow, whose shirts are featured over in the corner. They are a delivery platform that also offers telehealth services. And our other sponsor of the evening is Magnolia Wellness. And they are a dispensary located in West Oakland. So thank you to our sponsors. And
I have a very short question for Daisy. My name is Malik Shakur. Daisy, you were mentioning that plan, whatever, I couldn't make it out what you were actually saying. Could you, where can we find the information on that?
Pine Bay area.
Plan Bay area is the name of it?
Yeah, so Google Pine Bay area.
Plan Bay area.
Yeah, you can find it on there.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much.
There's big billboards on it. If anyone ever drives between Castro Valley, like that over on 580, and I've always wondered what it was. It's been up for like 2 years.
Yes.
And they have all this information. I just thought it was like some weird redneck stuff because that's like a weird area. That's informative, but it makes sense that that would actually be a cross issue or like a cross line issue because everyone wants their land. So it was interesting who got it funded because I'm from that area and I know like the population. But thank you for educating me. was too scared to look it up.
Hi, I'm Shauna from Access to Love SF. We've been organizing low-income patients in San Francisco for over 15 years. We were just recognized by our Board of Supervisors. And I wanted to give people a little bit of background on MCLR, which you brought up. I'm one of the steering committee members and was one of the proponents for MCLR 3. Unfortunately, got a bit hijacked by Steve Covey into MCLR 7, and we're withdrawing that. And the organizers of MCLR 3, which was predominantly low-income patients that have been really on the ground level, working really against the organizations that have put together OMA and are willing to get behind it, even though it's recognized as racist. So we've had a long history in San Francisco City Hall being followed around by the organizations that are willing to throw their hat towards something that is not aligned with civil rights, and have a very difficult time continuing our political voice. So first I'll ask for your support of Access of Love's voice in City Hall. And secondly, I want to invite everybody that can on Tuesday to protest in front of a policy discussion on MRSA and UMA, that you need to be able to have $200 to walk in the door, which obviously pushes out everybody that's a poor patient from attending a policy discussion. And this has been going on in the city the last 2 years. They've had conferences anywhere from $600 to $1,000, pricing our voice out. And so I'd just like to ask for your solidarity.
I'll yell it. Why is, in a nutshell, why is UMA racist? I read it and it seemed okay. What problems
details?
Well, from my standpoint, I'll just start off with just forget who wrote it, forget the intentions, forget decades of big money. Let's just go with human nature and the psychology of how we do things. So if you've been doing something for 10, 15 years and it's been being just fine and something changed, how many people are just going to change because some law that they have no connection to, that they don't understand, got passed in the background? They're not going to change their behavior. So if you take something that was once legal on December 31st, and now we've been doing something away for 20 years, and now on January 1st, we make it illegal, which is what happened to me when I was running my small medical cannabis delivery service out of Merced, and now you make it illegal, you have created a criminal. That is, from human psychology, we just know you're not about to change your behavior. It's not, and they're going to use a term called unintended consequence, and that's only an unintended consequence if you're an idiot.
And can I add to that? So a couple of things in the AUMA law, like one, it makes it illegal to smoke in your car, and we know for a fact that hot boxing is a thing. And we know like we have a huge housing crisis here in the Bay Area, so a lot of people like, okay, I'm gonna smoke in my car because it's illegal to smoke in front of like several places, or people are gonna call the cops. We already see that they put spikes in front of their doors to get away from the homeless. What do you think they're gonna do for people who are gonna smoke cannabis, right? So that's one thing. And then thinking about the different fees and fines and jail time that they impose for having certain amounts of cannabis and being able to give out cannabis. So you need to tell me that we already know from Surgeon General Elders that gave a presentation that the #1 users of cannabis are young people, right? And we already know that young black men are the main people to be jailed, and they're already making it illegal for you to give a certain amount out. Like you get a fine of a certain amount of money or jail up to 6 months. Then who is being impacted then by that law? And then on top of that, it allows for monopolies to come in. So do we want Monsanto Frankenweed too? That's why it's racist, because it completely targets like behaviors that are from people who are impoverished. We have no other way. So how are we gonna make a way out of no way? That's why it's racist. And I don't feel like it's deliberately racist. It's, what do you expect from privileged white males who don't wanna check their privilege, right?
And then, important thing here. We have to remember, we are privileged just by being in this space called the Bay Area. Our brothers and sisters are medical refugees in the Central Valley and in Southern California, where there have been harsh bans on complete no cultivation bans and complete no delivery service bans. And we have to think about that. When I was in Merced, I walked around doing similar behaviors to how I live here. Yes, maybe I'm irresponsible sometimes, but take those same irresponsible behaviors here, not one interaction with police. Take my same way of living and put it in Merced. Why was I having interactions weekly with the police? Why was I getting pulled over? Why was I spent a couple, anyway, it's just like ridiculous. So we have to understand that when we have KKK police that are able to, remember when Andrea mentioned that some of these situations are up to how the police feel.
Exactly.
Well, how is Colonel Sanders gonna feel? When he's pulling over Dante, and he has 100 ounce in him, he's like, oh, just for his personal use, is he a sick or is he gonna sell this? So you can't create laws that ignore human behavior and human psychology and things like implicit bias and then say, I have no idea. And that's what AUMA does. It's written by a really nice white guy who just wants to be legal, we should all be smoking it, man. And no, it's racist, it's going to harm us, it's going to kill us. It's the war on drugs 2.0.
So, Supernova does not have a position on the legalization, as I've said numerous times. But one thing that I encourage you all to do is follow the money. It is not hard to do that part of the initiative. It's only 62 pages, and part of that talks about where the money goes. And you can then see that if you assume, as the governor's office has, that the revenue from the taxation of legalized cannabis will bring into the state upwards of $500 million to $1 billion. And you assume that the cost of administering this program is 10 times the budget apportioned to our ABC Bureau. Let's just assume it's just very inefficient for them to figure out how to regulate cannabis. And then you then subtract each of the set buckets that are dedicated to certain areas, such as $10 million to be to do some research on demographics, $10 million for the first 5 years to be invested in communities that have been disproportionately impacted by cannabis, and you apportion all those buckets, and then you see that after that set amount of money is apportioned to those areas, you still have a surplus, and that surplus is mandated to be given in certain percentages, 60% to substance abuse education for youth, 20% to help the environment and to help repair it from people who have had unconscionable uses of our state and federal parks to cultivate. Then there's still this final 20% that goes to state and local police. And when you then take these numbers and give them percentages of the $500 million or $1 billion, you will see that the $10 million for the first 5 years that's supposed to be the reparations amounts to less than the sales tax we pay on candy bars. It amounts to less than the sales tax that we're going to pay for cannabis. And even when you are allowed to have that 10 million 5 years from now increase to 50 million, it's still not enough. And so I don't know how in this huge state we're going to divide $10 million in all of the areas, that have been disproportionately impacted. It's not just the cities, it's the rural areas. There are people up north who have had their dogs killed half their lives when SWAT teams are continuing to raid them, and they have their papers and are trying to show them that they're legitimately cultivating. So we're all going to share this money. And so I think it's really important to remember what Andrea was saying while talking about AMA, which is that there is work to be done now, assuming that it passes, to make sure that the people who say they care about justice and social justice are there to support the amendments to AMA that will then make sure that this special fund of taxes goes where it needs to go. Because I don't understand, when you see Colorado
and all the money that they've taken in, and you hear how they're gonna repair the roads and do schools and things. We don't have that as it stands in ALMA because it's a special fund, okay? It's a special fund, which means it must be spent in the way that it says in the statute, okay? So you're not gonna just suddenly see the UCs have their tuition go down. You're not gonna suddenly see that AE isn't shitty, like, you're going to have to fight for that. And so that's why, you know, you don't have to take a position as to whether or not ALMA is racist, but you do need to take a position about the money. Because that's what does everything in our society, and you can't give me less than the sales tax to help repair Oakland.
It's one thing to look at the law and look at the intent behind the law was made. But it's a completely different thing when that law is passed and how it's enforced. Okay? So we can have a law that's written with the best intentions, Brown versus Board of Education. And then look at how it's enforced, okay? We need to engage, be active, get in the face of law enforcement so that we can change the way they enforce the law.
Exactly.
Okay? What I'm seeing already, starting in October, November of last year, is under the new rules in MRSA or ALMA, it's going to allow city attorneys, county council, as well as the district attorney to determine whether or not you should be fined civilly or pursued criminally. So what does the new legislation do? It gives the government an option to choose whether to go after you criminally or to go after you civilly. Okay? Enforcement, district attorney's offices, we need to hold them accountable. Okay? What are these new laws doing? They're creating more activists. Spread your seed.